Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings is the 25th movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and Marvel's done it again. There we go. Review over. Thank you for coming. No, but on a serious note, this movie was very fun. It was very enjoyable. It was very well made. I do recommend people go see it, but I still want to give a more in-depth review. And this is my first ever film review, so thank you for joining me for this. This movie is filled with actors that I have never seen before. I think the only main actor that I had seen a project they worked on before was Awkwafina. I saw Raya and the Last Dragon, and she played, I think, Sisu was the name of the dragon. So other than her, I haven't seen any of the other actors' acting potential or anything like that. I don't think I've seen any of the movies that this director has directed before. Definitely, though, everybody did a fantastic job. Like I said about Awkwafina, I wasn't really sure going into this movie how I would feel about her, considering Raya and the Last Dragon I thought was an okay movie, and I thought Sisu was funny at some points, but I thought at other points she was kind of like over the top, and I wasn't really on board with it. So I wasn't sure how I was going to handle Awkwafina's character Katie in this, but she was standout, hilarious, great best friend character, great supporting character. She was hilarious in all the right ways. As for the characters in this movie, I think they're all fantastic. I think they're all likable in their own ways. I think Shang-Chi, the title character, I think he's very charismatic and carries the movie very well. Like I said about Awkwafina's character Katie, how she's very funny and lighthearted, and she brings a great essence to the movie from that. Tony Leone's Wenwu, I think was his name. He's the leader of the Ten Rings, the Mandarin. He is one of my favorite MCU villains now. I think there's a depth to him that you don't really see with a lot of other villains in the MCU because of just the way the movies are set up. But with this movie, where you get to see a lot of the hero and the villain interact, while you know that the villain is the villain. I know there's a lot of movies like Iron Man or Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 where like Tony is spending a lot of time with Obadiah Stane or Star-Lord is spending a lot of time with Ego, but during those points they don't know that those are the villains. Whereas in this movie, Shang-Chi knows that his father is a bad guy. He knows that his father is the leader of this criminal organization. And so there's a lot of that kind of dynamic that goes into the movie that I think is really beneficial for it. Another main character in this movie, Zhai Ling, who is Shang-Chi's sister. Going into this movie, I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about her because I think some of the trailers were hinting towards some allegiance that she would have or what kind of character she would play. But the character that she became or that she was in the movie, I think was a lot more enjoyable than what I was expecting. So that was a pleasant surprise for me. As far as the technicality of this film, the action is really good. It's really different from what we've gotten in other Marvel movies, just on the way that they filmed it. I know that a lot of Marvel movies, they do a lot of jump cuts where they'll go from one angle and then go behind them for another angle and all that stuff. This movie, the camera moves around the fight as it's going on, so that you see a lot of the action going on. There's not a whole lot of jump cuts to kind of mask stunt doubles and CGI and whatnot. There is CGI, of course, because this is a Marvel kung fu movie, but it's a lot of it looks practical. A lot of it looks really well done. Simu Liu as Shang-Chi in this movie is just fantastic. I love his performance. He did a really good job with his character and portraying the emotions that he has towards his family and towards the situation that he's in. I don't really know what else to say. He does a really good job, and I really liked his performance. Now, of course, with every movie there are negative aspects or aspects that I didn't quite like as much. There is a character that's introduced in, I think, around the third act that when he first showed up, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great moment with this character, but then the character just keeps going with the movie, and I'm not sure how I feel about that. I kind of wish that they would have just kept him to like one or two scenes and then moved on, but they kept him coming. But some moments later on were funny and good, but like a lot of the stuff in between was just kind of like, I don't really feel like he needs to be here. Now, of course, with this being an MCU movie, there are MCU connections. Not as much as I think there would have been, actually. I mean, there's nods and references. They talk about how we live in a world where people can disappear and then come back 5 years later. So this is, of course, set post-Endgame. But other than that, there's no really indication of like where it takes place in relation to like Spider-Man Far From Home or any of the Disney Plus shows. It's just past Endgame, which honestly is all you really need to know. And it doesn't really even, it doesn't dwell on the fact that yeah, half the population disappeared and they came back. It's just it's its own story with its own goings on, and that's what I really like about this movie. And of course, as you can see from the trailers, there are cameos from Abomination and Wong, but something that I think might disappoint some people that I actually really enjoyed about it is that the context of which they're in the movie with they're in that cage fight, you don't really get an explanation as to why they're there or like what they're doing there or how they got there exactly, but it's just, I don't really think it needed it because this is Shang-Chi's story, and they just happen to be in a place that Shang-Chi's story took him. So you don't really need basic context from that. You can just accept that okay, they're there. We might find out why later, but we don't find out why now. But it's not relevant to the story, so it doesn't matter. And I kind of enjoy that. Another interesting thing about this movie is that the family dynamic that it has with Shang-Chi, his sister Xialing, and their father Wenwu. You can tell that the brother and sister obviously, have some apprehension towards their father because of, what happened to them when they were being raised. With Shang-Chi, he ran away from home when he was 14 to go hide in America. It changed his name to Sean. And Xialing feels like he abandoned her to just leave her with their abusive dad. Whereas the dad just wants to reconnect with his kids because he feels like he wants to have that family dynamic that he had for a while with their mother. And I think that really works well with this movie because it's something a little more fresh in the MCU. Another thing I want to address is that sometimes with MCU movies, especially this late into the game where we're 25 movies in, there's 3 Disney Plus shows, there's this idea that you need to have seen everything before going to see the new movie. And that's not necessarily the case with this. Yes, sometimes it's nice to have seen a lot of other stuff too, so that when you get, there's a reference, you understand the full context, and it's that much better for you. But at the end of the day, it's just a reference to something, so that it's, a lot of times even in this movie, they do, explain what the reference is with the reference. They explain what's going on with that. So you don't need to have seen it, but again, if you've seen it before and you have that context, it's all the more enjoyable for you. For instance, you don't need to have seen any of the Iron Man movies to know who the Ten Rings are. They appeared in Iron Man 1, and they had that thing with the fake Mandarin in Iron Man 3, and then they even had that Marvel one-shot, All Hail the King, which was on the Thor the Dark World Blu-ray. I don't think it's on Disney Plus, and I don't know of anywhere to find it online, although I'm sure it's out there. Yeah, you could see those so you understand, hey, here was the Ten Rings organization. Here was a guy that was claiming to be the Mandarin or was pretending to be the Mandarin, and then in this one shot, you had him, he was broken out of prison by the real Mandarin for whatever purpose. Yeah, it's all kind of backstory with this organization that you don't need to know, but if you do know it, then it can make it a little more enjoyable going into this movie. Along the same lines as, yes, Abomination and Wong are in this, I wouldn't say you need to have seen The Incredible Hulk because the only thing they have in common is that the Abomination was in The Incredible Hulk. There's no reference to something that happened in that movie. He's just there. And with Wong, maybe you want to understand more of who Wong is as a character. So, hey, you can watch Doctor Strange, you can watch Infinity War and the very end of Endgame that he's in. You could watch those if you want to, but again, it's not required watching. This is a fresh origin movie for this character, which is something that actually hasn't happened. It doesn't happen all too often with Marvel movies now, where you have a character that's solely introduced in their origin movie without being referenced or appearing in a previous movie. Like Doctor Strange was mentioned in Captain America 2. Captain Marvel had that pager end tag scene at the end of Infinity War. Black Panther and Spider-Man were in Civil War before they got their own solo movies. Black Widow was in like a bajillion movies before getting her own solo movie. But with this, you could go into this movie without having seen any Marvel movie, and you would still be able to understand and enjoy almost all of it, probably like 99% of it. Again, there's just this couple cameos or references that you might not quite understand, but it doesn't detract from your enjoyment of the movie. Overall, this movie was a really fun time. I had a blast with it. I mean, there are a couple issues just with the movie itself that I had, but that's just every movie. I mean, I don't think any movie is perfect. At the time of this recording, I believe it has a 94% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I think that it's very well deserved. Personally, I'd give this movie probably about an A minus. I don't know what percentage I would give it, maybe like a 91 or 92. But yeah, I think it's a really fun movie. I think it's really well done. I think the acting was well done. I think the story was engaging. The action, of course, being a kung fu movie and being very different from what we've gotten in Marvel movies in the past, was very well done. I very much love the action. I can't wait to watch this movie again just to see the action again. This movie comes out September 3rd. I believe, a lot of movie theaters do those Thursday night pre-showings or whatever. So it technically comes out September 2nd. I definitely recommend you go watch this if you feel safe going to theaters right now. I know that there's still, essence of COVID with the Delta variant, so not a lot of people are still feeling like they feel safe going outside and going to movie theaters. So if that is something that you feel safe with, I recommend doing it. It's a very good movie. Just mask up, get vaccinated, whatnot. But if not, then I believe this movie has a 45-day window before it's supposed to be released on Disney Plus or whatever. I don't know if they're doing the premiere access with that or if they're just doing it's just going to go straight to Disney Plus, no additional charge. I just know that it's 45 days between the theatrical release and a digital release. With that being said, thank you guys so much for watching this review. You can check me out on other social medias. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. All that stuff will be linked down below. So check those out if you want to. Go ahead and like and comment. Share this video if you want to. If I'm the reason, if I was the final straw that got you to want to go see Shang-Chi, let me know, because that'd be awesome. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. Have a good day.